Hello everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Neurodiversity series, where we will be talking about visual impairment through books and films. And as always, myself, Dr. Pallavi Bapat Pinge from Reading Kida Library and a developmental pediatrician from Nagpur. And along with us, our constant partner, Sonali Medekar, is here. So, welcome, Sonali. She is connecting with us all the way from Delhi. So thanks to the internet and all that, we are able to connect and have this session together over here. As I said, that we are going to talk about visual impairment. So, what is visual impairment? So, any kind of loss in vision, which could be partial or up to even complete blindness, is considered as visual impairment. That's why we'll not be using the word blind only. We will be using the term visual impairment because there's a range that some people could see some sparks of light or some very close images, and some people are completely blind, the total blindness is there. Also, when we talk about visual impairment, we would like to go into the details that in India, what is the prevalence? So the numbers say that there is 6.1% prevalence of visual impairment in India. That is, in every 100 people, there are 6 people who have visual impairment. So I think it's a question for all of us, that are we really seeing these many number of visually impaired people in 24 hours of a day? If we are meeting 100 people or actually passing by 100 people in a day, so do we really see six, on an average, six people who have visual impairment? So I think there is some discrepancy over here, that people with visual impairment are not getting their functionality to the optimum level that they could function in the society well. So, Sonali, want to ask you over here that can you put some light on what are these types of visual impairment so that our audience can understand visual impairment better?
Yes, surely. So, whatever I have read from that, I know that we can classify visual impairment in two ways. So, one can be that it is congenital, so it is acquired or it is there as soon as the child is born. Okay, and it is there by birth. And second one is late acquired, so it might be because of some surgery or it might be because of some accident, some kind of infection that later on the person develops the visual impairment. And second type that I have come across is just that it is brain based disorder. It can be because of that, or it can be because of some impairment in the eye area, so it is called as ocular impairment. So even if it is late acquired, there can be these two subtypes over there. So as you have said that prevalence it's so high, or around 6.1, and now we know the types. So what are some of the developmental implications of visual impairment?
Yeah. So, like you said, that visual impairment can be congenital. So, the developmental implications come with respect to congenital visual impairment mostly, because if the baby is not able to have full-fledged vision, which normally develops by 6 months of age, the child has color vision, the baby has 3D vision, that is binocular vision that we call. The baby is able to follow a person from a long distance. So all these things are ready by 6 months, because this is very important that the vision and hearing is ready by 6 months, so that the child can start locomotion, start moving around. And that's why we have observed that around 6 month old babies start rolling over, crawling, creeping, sitting. All of these milestones are achieved. But if the vision is not there, how the child is going to, navigate in the environment? How the child is going to understand the environment? That's why the most important thing that happens with respect to visual impairment is that there is a delay in achieving these milestones. Then secondly, it is also seen that then the child has to depend on other senses. So the hearing needs to be, the primary sense, because whatever we can see, the child has to actually hear. Then the next is touch. Tactile sensation is very, very important for people with visual impairment. So babies have to understand everything using touch. So you can just imagine that how vision is so important for exploration. and all the senses, when work together, the development of the individual is in the right path. So if vision impairment is there, so there are deficits in these domains also. And as the child grows, as I said, some children, babies can have partial blindness, some can have total blindness. So the effect of light is also there on their eyes. They are not able to tolerate that light. Sometimes the sunlight becomes too much for them. So these can be the implications of visual impairment on the development of the baby. And Sonali, in continuation with this, I want to ask that as the person grows, how are the other challenges that a person with visual impairment is going to face?
Yes, yes. So you have already mentioned that the one of the sources from which we gather information, that is by looking, that information is lacking. So it has some impact on memory as well. So the person who is blind since birth, or who is having visual impairment since birth, does not have any kind of visual memory. And persons who have acquired it later on, they will have some sort of visual imagery, but in some people it happens that that visual image memory is lost. They completely have to form a new sort of a memory. So if we have a memory of alphabet 3 by a visual, they might
Hmm.
have the motor memory of that alphabet and not the visual memory. So in some of the books I have read, that some people who acquired the visual impairment lost the idea or lost the memory of how their mother or how their daughter looks. So the frustration they felt because of that is something which we cannot even imagine at times. But yes, this difficulty they face. As you said that when the baby is born and then we sort of develop that visual and then the motor skills we develop, right? You mentioned about that. So the people who sort of get used to that motor memory of their surroundings, it becomes very challenging for them if anything in the surrounding is changed. So if we change any
Yeah.
setting in the house, if there is any construction in the building or on the road, it becomes very difficult for them to navigate themselves. So of course then they have to depend on other senses, or we have many times seen that they use that kind of a stick so they can make sense of if there is any change in the environment. So these type of challenges they mainly face. And of course, as you said, that there can be some irritation to light as well. So sleep difficulties are very common because at times eyes might not be responding to any sort of light. So at night or a day, it is all same for them. So we usually fall asleep because everything is getting darker. We switch off the light, and that's how our brain goes to sleep many of the times. And that marker or that stimulus is not there for them. There is no difference in any kind of a stimulus. So it becomes very difficult for them to fall asleep. So these are sort of challenges they face according to whatever I have read. And I'm sure there is just a lot to read because I remember even you were mentioning that we were able to get a lot of references from a lot of resources. So we would
Hmm.
really like to say that our whatever we are mentioning, information is not limited to our resources at all, at least for visual impairment, because I think it is more widely accepted than any other disability that we will discuss further on as well. Um, Similar thing, we see that there are many films. If we type visual impairment or blindness or blind, there are many films on Netflix, Amazon, and on Google, of course. There are many mainstream films. So even from Bollywood, Tollywood, Hollywood, you will see that it has been represented all across. So
Yes.
all of you must be knowing that there is Golmaal, there is Aankhein, there is Black. All of us have seen. Then there is this recent film where Ayushman was there. So we are not going to go into details of mainstream films. And that's why we thought that our discussion, we will focus more on documentaries and films and other resources that we came across, so that we come to know even more things from where we can learn more about visual impairment. So, Dr. Pallavi, you have mentioned many interesting documentaries to me. So, would you like to share anything about those?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that visual impairment is out of all the disabilities, is one such disability which has come a long way. So the representation of people with visual impairment is quite ahead as compared to other disabilities, and that's why probably in Indian cinema, or as well as in the Western countries also, the representation of blind people in movies is there. It's there. You don't have to search a lot like we had done previously for autism, Down syndrome, but it was not like for visual impairment, and that's why we are focusing on documentaries, like you said. So I will be mentioning a few documentaries. So one of them is Blind Sight 2013. That is the search word if you want to search. So what they have actually mentioned, it's a small documentary based in Australia, where they have started this method of using guide dogs for blind people. So it's like they are serving to more than 10,000 people in Australia who have visual impairment, and these guide dogs help them in navigation, in understanding, like you said, that if something changes in the surrounding, how the person is going to know. So these dogs are actually the source of becoming independent in their lives. So it's a very beautiful documentary, and they have mentioned that as young as 6-month-old babies are given guide dogs. So at such a young age, they are being given this opportunity to become independent. So nothing like that. Then another interesting I got to see was Blind Camp. Blind Camp. So it's a part one, part two documentary in which it's a camp, summer holiday camp for teens who have visual impairment.
Okay.
And there some buddies also come, and these buddies are actually achievers. So they have achieved something in their lives, they have participated in sports, or they are doing some jobs. So they have reached to a particular level in their functioning in the society. So then these buddies help these teenagers to understand that how they can become self confident, how they can become independent. So it's a very interesting concept, and it is called Blind Camp. Then one more thing that I found was, there are, when you search for documentaries, again you will get lots of them over the internet, but some specific I am mentioning over here. With respect to India, there is this A Vision of Hope. This documentary is there, which is by the National Association of Blindness India, and it focuses on the Center for Blind Women and Disability Studies. So the interesting thing over here is that we all understand that women face problems in different walks of life, and if the woman is blind, the conditions or the situations are further worse. So they have mentioned in this that how blind women have been in a position of disadvantage always. They have been neglected. So how this particular organization has tried to help them. And one such thing that they are doing is called as Discovering Hands, in which these blind women, as I said, that they depend more on their other senses. So the touch sensation is very strong. So these blind women are trained to screen people for breast cancer. So using
Oh.
their hands, they can actually identify lumps while examining the breast. And this is how they get an entry into the medical fraternity, and they could be a very good resource to do awareness as well as screening of breast cancer. So that was a very amazing thing that I found. Any particular documentary that you want to talk about, Sonali? I think you had mentioned one, that Notes on Blindness. What was it
Yes,
about?
yes. So, Notes on Blindness is a wonderful documentary where we come to know a lot about that person's perspective, how he is looking towards or how he is looking at blindness. He has acquired it, late acquisition of blindness, they have shown in that documentary. And there in that documentary, he is mentioning a lot about his challenge he faced as he was a professor. So, he has to read a lot of material, academic material, and then
Mhm.
teach in class. So he realized that there is no enough material for him which is there, because if blind people or if people with visual impairment have to read something, then it has to be transcribed in braille or maybe in the sound, right? So
Audio.
audio recording. So he thought that how will I make sure that the books which are interesting for me or books which are useful for me are transcribed? Who would have that kind of record that which book is transcribed and what? So then he sort of started calling a lot of his students and other friends and other colleagues to get these books recorded. And then he mentioned that now there will be the part where he will have to organize all these. So how will he organize when he's not able to see by himself? So these challenges he has mentioned a lot. And in that film, what I really liked was they have shown these visuals, how his vision started getting affected. So those visuals, like how blurry the images are getting, how colors are getting mixed up, how the light sensation is too intense at times, how there is no sensation at times. All these visuals they have shown, because as I said, it is from his perspective. So it is shown as if he is looking at it or he is writing a diary. So that documentary I really found was interesting. Another documentary by same name, by which you have seen one documentary, is Blind Sight. Okay, so
Yes.
it is a
Yeah.
Tibetan documentary, and the tagline of that documentary is that they lost their sight but not their vision. So in this, they
Yeah.
have shown that there are some children and individuals who want to climb the Mount Everest, and how their teacher helps them in enabling their vision of climbing that Mount Everest. That is what they have shown. And yes, so for now, I would like to talk about these two. Would you like to add on anything in documentary?
Yeah. Surely. So, while I was searching for these documentaries, I was really happy to see that National Geographic has actually covered a few documentaries with respect to blindness. They have actually focused on a school, which is a blind school in a part of West Bengal. Then also they have covered a national in. Then there's one more documentary on National Institute for Visually Handicapped. So
Hmm.
NatGeo has also done a very great job in this field. And one more important mention that I want to make over here is algorithm. So
Hmm.
this is a documentary uh, which is about blind chess. So
Yes.
people with visual impairment playing chess, and there are three boys who have been trained to play chess by the All India Chess Federation for Blind. And the documentary was made over a period of 3 years. The director stayed with these children for that long time, and they have done the shooting over there, the real life incidences and everything. So it's a highly acclaimed movie or documentary in various film festivals. And when I talk about film festival, I want to mention this, that in India in 2015 we had the first international film festival for person with disabilities.
Hmm.
So since then, it has been happening every year. The last race that I could get was of 2019. I am not sure whether it happened in 2020 or whether it is scheduled in 2021. But this is an Indian initiative where they are talking about films from India as well as outside, and those are films as well as documentaries. So
Hmm.
that could be a very good search to put and find out more resources with respect to visual impact.
Yes, yes. While you were speaking, I thought that there are three films which can be considered as art films or even mainstream films which are worth mentioning. So first one is that one which is Life of Pi, in which there are four short films, and the first one is about the photographer who is visually impaired, and she is a blind photographer and she is famous for that, and she also believes that she is able to capture the essence of moments around her through understanding the sound and then just capturing it on the basis of what she is hearing. And then in that they have shown that how later on she gains the sight because of some surgery, and then she still continues photographing, but how she finds her own work very boring and dull, and she feels that she has lost that charm which she had earlier. And then there is sort of open ending for us to understand whether she left photography or not. But I feel that they try to show us how difficult it can be for the person who has late acquired the blindness or visual impairment, and they sort of adapt to being not able to see things around them, and then they again gain sight, and how then again they have to start from scratch somehow. So that can also be difficult, because many times in many films we just see this part that okay, this person gained sight, but then we don't know that later on what kind of challenges they face. Another Hollywood film I saw was All I See Is You. So in that they have tried to show what kinds of difficulties in relationship there might occur. Okay, after the person gains the sight, so how then she comes to know that her place, what she was thinking in that marriage, is so different when she gains the sight, because as we all know that there people usually need a lot of support when they are having this kind of a barrier, and then when that support is not needed, people react in different ways, right? So be it our spouse, and even we react to that situation in a different way. So that dynamics they have shown very nicely. Another one which is on similar lines but not limited to only family, not limited to relationship dynamics, is Sparsh. It stars not Nawazuddin, sorry, Nasruddin Shah and Shabana Azmi. And they have shown that he's a principal of school, blind school. He is also blind, and he meets Shabana, and Shabana joins that school, and we then see what all goes on. So that is also a beautiful film which we have in India, which is a great resource, I must say.
Yeah, true. When you have mentioned these three films, I also want to give our audience another way of searching for movies or for films. So TED Talk videos, that's a very good source to understand any topic. When we consider any topic, TED Talk has got always a different view to it. So even in case of visual impairment, if we put blindness or visual impairment in the search, there are nearly 14 to 15 videos on it in and around visual impairment. So I think that could also be a very good medium to understand that what are the challenges that a person with visual impairment has, or how a person has actually overcome those challenges. Because one of the titles that I saw in that TED Talk was that how I am not disabled. So that was the title of the talk. It was just a 10-minute video. It's really interesting. So I think I would suggest our audience to do check for TED Talks also when they are searching about visual impairment. So
Definitely.
Sonali, with respect to films and documentaries, do you want to mention anything else, or shall we move ahead?
We can move ahead. We can move ahead to books,
Okay.
because there also I feel we have lots of interesting references. So would you like to start
Yeah,
with books?
yeah. Yeah, surely. So, as we know, we always talk about films and books together. So, the other domain of understanding visual impairment is through books. And when we talk about that, there are two divisions to it. One is books for people with visual impairment, and the another domain is books about visual impairment. So for people with vision, for neurotypical or for other people with other disabilities but intact vision, they can explore these books more, that is about visual impairment. And when we talk about visual impairment, there is a division fiction and non-fiction books. So I would like to more talk about fiction books. Then Sonali, you can add on to what I say. So in fiction books also, if you go and search, so there are a lot many young adult books and novels where the protagonist is a person who is blind or who has visual impairment, or there could be a story, but there is one accompanying character which has visual impairment. So some of the titles that I just want to mention are All the Light We Can't See is a very interesting book. Then there is Peter Nimble and His Fantastic Eyes. Then there is Light a Single Candle. Then Blind Chess. Then Blind Sided. Then Blind Spot. All these are books which are around fiction and they're young adult books. So there's interesting plot also, and the difficulties of that individual are also discussed in it. Similarly, one mention that I want to make amongst all this is Fault in Our Stars. So, as we know, many of you might have read this book. It's by John Green, and it basically is around cancer. Okay. However, other than the two main protagonists, there is a friend of them who has got a cancer of eyes, and because of that, initially he has lost vision on one side, and later on he is going to lose vision on the other side also. So a few of his challenges have been shown in that movie as well as in the book. So Fault in Our Stars is also a very easy read, and that can be tried to understand about this. Then when we come about fiction, then there's this category where there are books for children. So when I say books for children, I'm very happy to share that there are Indian publications who are writing and publishing books about neurodiversity. So I would just mention few titles. There's this one book that I have with me. It's A Walk with Thambi, and it is by Lavanya Karthik. And it's a very interesting read. So a guy and his dog, they go for a walk, and it's very interesting that the sentences that are given, you don't realize that the word see has not been used from start till end. And in the end, you come to know, okay, the child is blind. And then actually, what I did was when I read it, at the end, I realized that the child is blind. And that's why I again read the book to check, oh, yes, there is no word called see. So it's a very interesting read, a simple picture book for like children 6 to 8 year old and so. It's a very simple picture book. Then similarly, there is one more title called as Ready, Yes, Play. So this is a book about a child who wants to play cricket and he has visual impairment. So how all the children along with him change some rules of cricket so that they can play cricket with this child also. So it's a very interesting read about inclusivity, and how the father also helps in that has been shown in this book. This book is by Pratham Publications. Then similarly, there is Kana Panna. So Panna is a child who is Kana. So Kana is like low vision, and how he has difficulties because of that, but still he ensures that he is having fun has been given in that book. And one interesting title that I found, I have not read this book, but it's a very interesting title, The Black Book of Color. So they have given that what if we are not able to see color? So what will happen? So it's a way of understanding that a person with visual impairment who is not able to have enough vision, who does not have color vision, how he or she must be dealing with the environment around. So it's a very interesting read. And these were the few titles that I could find with respect to Indian publications. With respect to US, UK based books, there are a lot many books out there. But again, as always, the issue is about the affordability. But these are some of the titles that I found. So, Sonali, can you tell that what all you could find about books and around books?
Yes, yes, definitely. So I could find, as always, book by Oliver Sacks, which is also written on visual impairment. It is The Mind's Eye. It is called like that, and it is a book where he has mentioned many cases of his and or essays which he has written on these lines. So one essay was really nice, which is called as The Mind's Eye, and in that he has mentioned a lot of references of books which have been written by social workers, or there is one book by a psychologist, all those references. So from that, I whatever references I found very interesting, were there was one reference of Sabriye Tenberken. Okay, so she was a German girl who started losing her sight, and her parents thought that before she is uh, not able to see anything at all, we will give her varied experiences across the world. So that's how she took on learning different languages, different subjects, and then she started reading about philosophy and Tibetan language somehow. And by that time, her vision was severely impaired. And she realized that for her to study these topics, there is no enough material. And then she came to know that, oh, okay, so what about other people who are coming here, who are visually impaired and they are trying to learn? So the access is not there because material is not there. So then she took on this mission, and she started developing this Tibetan Braille. And she is a pioneer of that. She even then spread a lot of awareness. Earlier, there was no acceptance towards blind people in Tibet, but after her work, or like when she was working, a lot of acceptance started coming in, and now there is a lot of respect. So that's why we see many books and many organizations and many even documentaries coming from Tibet on visual impairment. That is because of her work. So we already know about her work because she is one of the co-founders of Braille Without Borders. We all have heard of this
Oh, yeah,
organization, and
yeah,
even I
yeah.
did not know before reading up on this topic that she is the one who is behind Braille Without Borders. So of
Mhm.
course, organization uh, spread is there, and they started many branches in other countries. Her main aim, she has mentioned it in her book as well. She has written, I think, more than one title. But in her main book, she has mentioned how her goal is to spread Braille acceptance or Braille accessibility in developing countries. So she knows that there is much more availability or resources in other countries, Western countries, but there is not much in developing countries. So that is her main focus is. Another book which I really like that reference was, I have not read it yet, but it is by Jacques Lucerin. So his book is And There Was Light. So in that he has mentioned how he was in army and how he was one of the persons who has faced holoscope and a lot of things during world wars, and then how he had to kind of adapt to all these changes in his blindness, and then how he again he gained vision, and then again how he had to adapt. So many details he has mentioned, so I think that is also worth giving a shot. And of course then there is Helen Keller and Louis Braille, so many books have been written on them. So by
Mm.
Helen Keller, I feel there are some books, but on both of these personalities also there are many, many books and articles which we are able to see around us. Um, so do you have anything to add, or should we start with the organizations and remarkable work that we have been seeing around us in this area?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to add a few things that we
Sure.
have covered books about visual impairment. So I
Mhm.
would like to put some light on books for people with visual impairment. So,
Yes,
like
yes,
you
yes, yes.
said, that Braille is what the most important medium of books or language or academics for people with visual impairment.
Mhm.
But it was very disappointing to read that India's braille literacy is the lowest in the world, and it's below 1%. So means whatever is the total number of people who are blind, out of those only 1% people know braille. So it's very
Mhm.
unfortunate to know that, because at one end we are saying that blind people have got enough of accessibility, and out of all disabilities they are dealing with it in a very good way. There's a lot of support, but we are seeing that with respect to braille and literacy we are far way behind. So when it
Mhm.
comes to literacy and when it comes to children, when to start introducing braille to them, like a very common question asked is कि बच्चों को books कब introduce करना चाहिए. So similarly, बच्चे जिन्हें visual impairment है, there also we need to understand that we should introduce them books as early as possible, and that's why there are many initiatives who are working on specific tactile books. So I am not talking about the typical touch and feel books that are in the market where only texture is there. These tactile books actually give children with visual impairment the experience that they should get by touch. So the story has, if particular bangles are there, clips are there in the story, that book actually has all that. So there is this Chetana Charitable Trust who have around 255 unique collection of tactile books specifically made for children with visual impairment. And the good thing is that the point of argument that they put forth is that for children, when you want to attract them to books, what is the USP? It's the visuals. So for a blind child, how are you going to attract him or her towards a book? So for that, you need tactile. And that's why they have come up with such a good collection. Similarly, there is this one more Mumbai-based initiative. They have fabric-based sensory books. And they have named their initiative as Beyond Braille. Because as I said, that to learn Braille, first they need to start having an exposure to books, tactile books, sensory books, and they are working on that. And the first book which was published in this category was Ranchod Sees the World. It's a picture book for children, and it's a non-fiction because it is based on a teacher from India who was blind, and his name was Ranchod Soni. So his work with respect to blindness and everything has been tremendous, and that's why they chose this person to be the protagonist in their first book for children. And also, there are few more initiatives who are working on introducing alphabets in Braille to children. And that's why this Braille tactile alphabet book is called Tactabit. So tactile alphabets is Tactabit. So this Tactabit is available in English and Hindi. And in this, children with the help of tactile are understanding alphabets in Braille. So it's a very interesting thing to see that in Braille also for younger age group of children, there are a lot many things coming up so that these people with visual impairment get the opportunity to get literacy through Braille. And when I say literacy, there's one interesting lifestyle magazine in English. It's India's first English lifestyle magazine in Braille. And the name is White Print. So it's a very interesting thing. And these were some of the things that I found about Braille and books around Braille for people with visual impairment. So I think, Sonali, now we can go ahead with the organization part that we wanted to cover.
Yes, thank you for bringing this up, because usually what we know is that, okay, then there are some books transcribed into Braille or there are some audio books which are available. But this is a very interesting resource that you have shared today, so people can explore more about it, and they can also even share it with others who might require these resources. So thanks a lot for that. This reminds me that at times there might be comorbidity with the hearing impairment as well. So Helen Keller herself was such person who had visual impairment as well as hearing impairment. And when I was reading about her and the work she has done, I came to know about something called as Studoma. So how we have Braille for people who are visually impaired, right? So this Studoma language is for people who are having visual impairment at the same time who are having hearing impairment as well. So because if you have both of these conditions, then how are you going to make sense of what people are communicating with you, right? So this Studoma is a tactile lip reading. So what they do is, if the person is having this comorbidity, then they try to place their hand on the face of a person who is speaking, and they try to make sense of the vibrations which are being made and the lip movement which is happening. So that's how they try to understand how the people are speaking. And Helen Keller also had some role in development of this language. That is what the internet source says, but there are no details as such that I could find. But it is fascinating to know that yes, people have done a lot of work on each and every condition. It is just that
Yeah.
numbers tell us that it is not widely spread, but there is nothing which is not available as such out there. So, and that brings us to organizations which have done really great work on this. We have mentioned few initiatives already. To add on to that, this Sabriye Tenberken, which I mentioned, who did a lot of work in Tibet. So these people, when they established Braille Without Borders, later on, they established one organization in Kerala. It is called as Kanthari. Okay, and they have this Kanthari leadership course, which is for all sorts of social entrepreneurs, and they create leaders through this program. Whoever wants to work in this social sector, not necessarily with blind people, but any condition, any socio-economic or disability related condition they want to work on, and then they just guide all of their students or mentees, we can say. So Kanthari means the one who is going against traditions, or who is very open for new experiences, who is challenging things. So that's how they have taken up this name, and they are doing really great work. And they have so far trained 98 people from across the globe, and their work is still going on. So yes, I came to know about their work. Of course, there are many organizations in every city that we see that are there. Like in Pune, there is in Ferguson College, there is this Sathi program. About that, we have heard mention from one of the UPSC aspirants as well, that she cleared the exam and she has just given her thanks to Sathi program. And many such mentions we find in media. But overall, every year, Sathi program is run by students in college only, and it is the main philosophy behind it is that as we help any other person, any other friend in our college, we should be more inclusive about students who are visually impaired as well. It is started by Professor Sunita Gupta, and it is still going on. And now there is Braille unit as well, and many activities happen over there. And in Pune, of course, there are many other organizations who are continuously transcribing all the books into audio books. So a lot of recording happens over there. Along with textbooks, even leisure books are being audio recorded over there. And of course, there is MAB. And anything you want to add, Dr. Pallavi, in this?
Yeah, about Sathi, I wanted to say that it was really fascinating for me to know that it's been run by students completely. So they have this coordinators, they have volunteers, they have a plan that what they are supposed to do, and it's very well organized. So I really was happy to read about it, and I also got to interact with one of the coordinators recently from Ferguson College. So it was really very fascinating for me. And another organization that I want to mention over here is Saksham. So Saksham has been working for people with visual impairment in whichever way they can, with respect to Braille, with respect to providing digital library, or providing support groups for parents of children with visual impairment. In whatever way they can support, they are doing this. And one of the programs that they run is that they have screenings of movies which have running commentary. So what they do is they watch the movies n number of times to see where do they have enough gap to give that commentary. Because okay, dialogues the person is going to listen, but how the person is going to understand the visuals, that the scene has changed, or now the person is on train, or whatever is the scene. So they actually note down those seconds, that यहाँ पे 15 seconds का gap है, here 30 seconds gap is there, and then those gaps are filled with the descriptions of the setting, to these people. So they have this screening of movies for blind people. So such kind of entertainment to even up to the job opportunities. They have a wide range of facilities and things that they are doing for people with visual impairment.
Yes, yes, yes. It is very fascinating to see, and there is always hope and, of course, inspiration as well to do more and more work
Yeah,
in every disability that we have been studying so far. It has been really
yeah.
great to learn about it. And
Yeah, and
yes,
Sonali, like you said, that in every city there must be something happening. So that's why I want to, ask our audience over here that they should go and search that what they can do, because for sure something is happening in your city with respect to visual impairment, and there could be some way that you can contribute over there. You said that recordings are done, or like audio recordings are done. So if anybody is very good at that, he or she can contribute over there. Or if a writer is needed during exams,
yes,
that's a good way of contributing. So I think this is the way that we could also be a Sathi in your city itself. It's not always necessary to be associated with one particular organization, but you can find something in your city and then try to contribute over there.
definitely. And of course,
Yeah.
if you know many other resources like books, documentaries, or mainstream films, you can share those resources with us as well so that we can keep on building the resource bank for each and every disability or condition that we are creating these videos on. And whatever we have mentioned in our today's video, we will be sharing it in the chat or comment or in the description of this video. And you can find this video on YouTube channel, or you can find it on our Facebook page, or you can find it on Instagram. All social media almost you will find it there, either by the name of Reading Kida Library or with the name of Speak with Sonali. Both ways you can find this video. And thank you for watching this video today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.